Good morning. It is Monday, the 2nd of August, on what is a bright but cool start to the day. It's barely 8:30 here, but I'm out with a big pile of parcels to unbox. It is post UK Games Expo and RPG Day. RPG a Day, Day 2. So I hope you're participating in that. Go check that out. I have this to unbox, and of course a nice hot cup of tea. So there are a couple of things in this box, one of which will not interest me or you at all, and one which will. So let's get to that. And yeah, the one that won't interest you is that'll interest my cats. So I'm not going to talk about that. What I am going to talk about is this. Okay, Superman Man of Steel Volume 1 by John Byrne, Marv Wolfman, Jerry Ordway and Dick Gordiano from DC Comics. New Metropolis. In 1986, comics history was changed forever when DC Comics recruited the heralded John Byrne to reinvent Superman and the city he calls home. This relaunch reimagined the classic characters Lois Lane and Lex Luthor and introduced new characters Cat Grant and Dr. Emil Hamilton from prolific writer Marv Wolfman and artist Dick Gordiano and Jerry Ordway. The Man of Steel must protect his beloved home from Bizarro and Metallo's catastrophic attack, all the while keeping his civilian identity a secret from his most powerful man in Metropolis, Lex Luthor. While Superman is the city's new hero, Clark Kent is still learning how to navigate daily life, especially when he meets the brilliant and beautiful television journalist Cat Grant. Despite the constant change, chaos in Metropolis, Superman travels to Apocalypse to confront the all-powerful villain Darkseid. Now, this volume collects the classic stories from the birth of a new era for Superman, including the Man of Steel 1-6, Superman 1-4, Action Comics 484, 587, Adventures of Superman 424, 48, 428, and profiles from Who's Who, update 87. So, why have I got this? A bit of nostalgia for me, because I didn't get into comics until I was about 20 years old. Here in the UK, you could buy DC Comics and you could buy Marvel Comics, but you had to kind of go out of your way to buy them. They weren't, very few of them were on the newsstand, so I read a bit of sort of like Captain America and some Submariner, and sort of like had got introduced a little bit, and also so Batman, of course, and a little bit of Superman, and I primarily knew Superman for the movie with Christopher Reeve and enjoyed it, and I wasn't particularly interested in reading Superman at all, except in 1986 when the change from in authors, and that changed basically an artist, because the change really was with John Byrne. Now, John Byrne is a Canadian artist whose artwork I really liked, and he was writing stories that I really liked, both for and drawing basically for Marvel, primarily the X-Men, but even more so for Alpha Flight. Alpha Flight was the Canadian superhero team, sort of connected to the X-Men, especially through Wolverine. And then he got to the end of sort of like his run on Alpha Flight, and he jumped ship to draw write Hulk. There was a crossover, and then he went across and started writing Superman for DC Comics, and reinvented the character. Basically, this is post Crisis on Infinite Earth. And that is what got me into DC Comics and Superman to an extent. I'm a dedicated fan. I've not collected it over the years, but I have read the occasional tale and enjoyed them, and come to understand who Superman is as a character through that. And the other thing I was reading at the time would have been Watchmen, and also essentially basically the Fall of Batman storyline by basically the big story at the time. So basically those are the big stories at the time in the comics industry. But then I discovered that John Byrne had jumped ship, as it were, basically changed to the other side. So this is what started it all. And it's interesting to note that the miniseries at the time, basically, so Man of Steel 1 to 6, and then there's also the trial of Superman. Were adapted for audio series for the BBC, done by Dirt Mags, and that also enforced my interest in Superman as well. The Trial of Superman was basically a one-off half-hour program, basically in a big American cast, and the same again for the Man of Steel series, which was a very faithful audio adaptation of the comics. So open this up, nice sturdy hardback. And this is sort of like classic Byrne artwork with that look on the face, and then we delve into essentially the covers. Essentially, that's a classic cover which I remember back in the day. Lots of action, basically a minor villain, but Superman coming to deal with the issue, and again this. Here we go. So we have basically, this is the end of it, part 1, and you can see here here's the cover for issue 2, introducing Lois Lane. Again, fans of John Byrne will recognise the art style from the period, and he still pretty much draws like this. And then basically you have a really big sort of like heroic buff Superman, just as you imagine. And here we have basically Jonathan and Martha Kent, essentially as sort of like older versions of the characters, because obviously Superman is all grown up, and we have, so where are we go? So basically, chapter 2, exposure. We have lots of things that Superman is going and doing, and Pa Kent is collecting all the newspaper clippings of basically Mysterious, and then we come to Mysterious Superman saves space plane. And this would also, the other thing this would do is it would go on to kind of inform the Adventures of Lois and Clark, basically the sort of 90s TV series, which ran for a few seasons and was fairly entertaining, essentially, but kind of kept it low in terms of the superheroics, primarily because of budget and what he could do. These days, you wouldn't have that constraint, but you did in the past. I mean, it was very enjoyable, but yeah, it's still great. And basically, here we have the space plane having the accident, the collision, and then essentially Superman leaping into the air, into the action, and then guiding it to the ground, as you can see there, and then sort of like the shock and amazement of the crew on board as to what's going on. Yeah, I'm going to say my absolute favourite moment from the Lois and Clark TV series is the moment where the villain from the future, whose name escapes me, but it's an encounter with H.G. Wells, and so this is basically, he says, one of the greatest mysteries of all time in our age is basically why Lois Lane didn't know who Superman was, and it's the big revelation as to basically, you know, for her at that point in the storyline, and he basically goes, are you really that stupid? You don't think that, you know, Clark Kent is Superman? And she's going, no, and it's sort of like, well, I go, okay, here's the clue. You know, glasses on, glasses off, glasses on, glasses off, and it's hilarious because essentially it's you just go, it's really funny. I really enjoyed that. But so we go on to later on, and this essentially we have more artwork. Basically, I love this. I do love this John Byrne's artwork. Explain, and the storytelling is good. And I was basically, I've still got these issues sort of somewhere in my collection because I kept them, and I would basically, essentially, I would read Superman up until the point where John Byrne left, and then I got interested again in the lead up to the big death of Superman, which is a huge event for Superman at the time, because essentially Superman had always been seen as indestructible, bar of course his vulnerability to kryptonite. But that was a big story at the time. And that would have been sort of like the early 90s, and I've still got those issues as well. And again, that also would have been adapted as an audio story, basically an audio drama for the BBC. In the early 90s, BBC on the radio did a number of audio adaptations. So they did do one for Spider-Man, but the primary ones they did were basically the death of Superman. And then they did essentially Nightfall for Batman, where essentially there would be daily episodes, sort of like 5 minutes long, again with a similar cast to the ones they did for Superman, because essentially it was all done by Dirk Maggs, the producer, audio producer, who's done a lot of fantasy audio adaptations here in the UK, and anything by him is always good to listen to, including the later Hitchhiker Guide series, parts 4 and 5 as well. And he also did the adaptation for the Hitchhiker's Guide, basically a stage show that was on, I suppose about 10 years ago, and that was really good as well. I'm also a big fan, Hitchhiker's Guide fan, and it's sort of something that me and my partner reference a lot in our conversation. You know, basically we'll make a reference to something, and we can basically quote off each other so much. But there you go. That's what it comes to being a nerd. So this is volume 1 of Man of Steel. I think that there's 2 or 3 other volumes which I will pick up at some point. But if you want sort of like classic Man of Steel, Superman tales, this is going to be a really nice volume. It's not necessarily the glossiest of paper or anything like that. It's not sort of like a deluxe version as such. It's a nice collection. The paper quality is sort of like a little bit rough, I would say, but not sort of like rough like it was in the original comics. I mean, you know, it's not. There is still like a gloss there. So don't think I'm detracting from that. Yeah. Let's just have a look, see what's on. Basically, what the coverage is. Oh yeah, basically, it's just going to take the. Let's drop the book. Barely bought it, and I've dinged the cover. That's really annoying. But yeah, basically, there we go. A couple of covers from the basically from the comics. These are classic posters. So that's the Man of Steel, volume 1. I'm going to put that back in its desk cover a bit more carefully than I took it off. And butterfingers there. Anyway, I hope you've enjoyed this unboxing in the Nook. If you have, please do hit the like button down below. And if you've got any comments or feedback, take the time to read those. And lastly, of course, if you want to be alerted to yet more unboxings in the Nook, please hit that subscribe button. I do appreciate that. And you'll get basically me with a box, a book which I hope I won't drop, and a nice hot cup of tea. Talking reasonably knowledgeably, I hope, about whatever is in the box. Thanks again for watching, and I'll be back again soon with another unboxing. Bye for now.